Welcome back, guys. We are here with another episode of Weddings Unedited. I am your host, Courtney Calton, and today my lovely co-host, Miss Alicia D'Elia, is not here with me, as you can see if you are watching on YouTube. Alicia is going to be live today from the lovely land of Florida. She has flown down there to visit her mom, Susan. Welcome, Susan.
Ooh. Susan's finally here. She's made an appearance. We've talked about you all along, and now you're here.
I'm here.
It's
How does it feel?
Great. I'm so excited.
Susan has literally made an appearance in every episode. If you guys have been listening, she gets dropped in there at least once in every episode.
Oh no.
In the best way possible. You just always seem to work your way in.
Okay.
We have Holly here, who is Courtney's beautiful mother. Thank you so much for joining us as well, Holly.
Thank you. Yes.
Such an honor.
Yeah. We have been saying for a long time that we wanted to sit down with both of our moms and do a mom episode to dive into the mother-daughter relationship and just moms in general when it comes to weddings. So we finally had the opportunity, and here we are.
Yeah, we love to touch on the subjects that are maybe a little taboo. But we don't want to close any doors on any subjects. That's the whole point of the podcast, is to open it up into the areas that maybe some people are uncomfortable talking about. And today's episode is going to be just that.
Yep. It's definitely something that comes up, I feel like, in conversation more and more with people, is just not that moms are troublesome.
Only occasionally.
Yes, but that relationship is always something that's a little bit more sensitive, especially when it comes to weddings. There can be so many different emotions and stuff that comes with that. So we just wanted to open that door for everyone to talk about it, because it's one of those things that, like you said, it's taboo. It goes untalked about, and people are scared to bring it up. So we're going to do it. We're sorry ahead of time if we offend you.
It's exactly. And it's not to say that people don't talk about it. They absolutely do. It's just a subject that doesn't necessarily get talked about openly with other people and in discussions, to be proactive about going about moving forward in weddings together and doing things together that will be helpful and beneficial for everyone on both ends, not just for the vendors, the clients, their mothers, whoever they are, whoever's bride or groom, or whichever the couple, whoever has their parents there. Sometimes, moms just are always looking out for their children. So
in the best way possible.
Always in the best way.
Yeah,
Totally. That's our job.
But that's why we have you both here, so we can get your input on these things. And not that, I know you ladies have been to many weddings. I know, Holly, I met you at Courtney's wedding a few years ago, and thank you for just being the wonderful mother. I'm combining words already. The wonderful mother that you are. And yeah, so Courtney, let's have you start taking this away.
Yes. So basically, I feel like this comes from just Alicia and I dealing with a lot of moms at weddings. And we get to see all the different perspectives of that. So I guess from us, it can come off sometimes a little bit more intense and aggressive. So from your perspective, as a mom, when I got engaged and we were starting the wedding planning, how did you feel initially off the bat? Like being involved? Did you want to be involved?
Oh, 100%. I wanted to be involved. I was very excited. And you had asked me if I would help, with the planning and all of that. And I love doing that. So I was just kind of, I think initially from where I was coming from and a little difficult, was to rein it in a bit, and to remember this is not my wedding, that this is how I would want it to be. But it is not up to me. And so when you would, talk to me about what your vision was and what you wanted, I didn't always agree, because again, I'm coming from more of a older generation where it's like, well, that's not what we did at weddings years ago.
Yeah.
And just kind of listening to what you wanted, and I didn't always agree. And sometimes we did butt heads occasionally on some stuff, because I would be like, what do you mean you don't want a cake? Everybody has a cake at their wedding. You want donuts? What are you talking about? But after a while, you just kind of think, yes, if that's what you want, we will make it happen. So that's when we built the donut wall for you, because that's what you wanted. That was your vision.
No, I think that's a great perspective right off the bat, is that it is two different generations, right? And I'm certain that from your guys' generation to ours, weddings have done a complete 180. Like, they do not look anything alike anymore, and traditions are not necessarily a thing anymore. So we are definitely in a unique position because that tradition is being broken at a lot of weddings, and moms and daughters are figuring that out together. Like, this is what your wedding looked like, but this is how I want mine, and how can we come together on that vision?
But I think we, being from the older generation, we always wanted to set traditions. So we wanted to follow them, we wanted to keep them, and we wanted to include them in our weddings. Back when I got married in the 80s, it was all about tradition. So I think that's the hard part. You guys want to break tradition. I think we wanted to keep it.
Totally. No, I 100% get that. And I don't necessarily even know, like, where that idea of breaking traditions came from.
Yeah, I'm not sure either.
Being different. I think you guys just want to be different.
We just want to be difficult, maybe.
Yeah, I mean,
Well, that comes
Yeah,
with
that
it.
too. I would probably agree in that regard. But I mean, that's the whole thing with weddings. It is all based on traditions.
Yeah.
And so, like Susan, you were saying, you were married in the 80s. And my first wedding, when I married Courtney's dad in the 80s, I mean, this is what you did. This
Right.
is, you had the ceremony, and these are the things that you followed during the ceremony, or at the reception, you had the cake cutting, you had the first dance, father-daughter dance, or whatever it might be. And then I just think with the younger generations, they want to break traditions. They want to start their own ideas kind of thing moving forward, and just come up with some different ideas. And some of the ideas now that you see with weddings are pretty impressive. I know you had mentioned where people were coming up with like some theme weddings. And I guess I was a little ahead of my time, because when I married your father, I had a Great Gatsby themed wedding. So it was a little different, and I didn't realize I was,
Trendsetter here.
I was a trendsetter.
well, Holly is the trendsetter over here, so now we need to refer to Holly for all of the new ideas.
Exactly. Susan, what would you say is like a couple, or if just one trend that you would like to see stay, or traditions, I should say, stay at weddings?
Probably the father, daughter, mother, son kind of thing.
What do you mean?
Dance.
The
The
dance.
dance.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I will say that I see that at just about every wedding still.
Yeah, I think that is definitely a tradition that's still kind of
It's a
sticking
tearjerker.
around.
Oh, totally. And now people are starting to incorporate, like stepmoms, stepdads into those dances. So instead of just having those initial 2 dances, it's become like almost sometimes 6 or more
Right.
of them trying to incorporate everyone, which I love.
Yeah.
No, I know.
That's sweet.
Exactly. I think that's a tradition that's going to probably stick around for a while. I don't see that really being let up anytime soon. It's sort of all the other things throughout the day that's sort of starting to trickle off, like the cake and having a donut wall. That's been done, and it's still going to be done so many times. Because it is a cool idea. I think the idea of quote unquote breaking tradition is so that couples can really make their wedding days like about themselves and about their tastes, their likes, their personalities. And I think, just like you were saying, this generation now, especially, like, we're all just so gung-ho on doing what we feel is right for ourselves. I think there was just a lot of stuff that's gone on in the past where it felt like tradition really had to be stuck into place. And now people are just like, no, forget that. Like, we just want to go and do our own thing. And so elopements have become more of a thing. And, I eloped. I've told Courtney this. I eloped, Byron and I eloped at the courthouse here in Orlando. Did not invite Susan.
Alicia.
Alicia, what?
Because it was 2 days later, and I do remember that phone call telling her and my dad, and they weren't too happy. And at the end of the day, it was about Byron and I. Not to say we won't be doing a vow renewal in the next few years, where I will be putting on a wedding
Let me
dress
know.
and doing the whole
Okay.
thing over again. Let me know.
Send me an invite.
Maybe I'll send you an invite. But that just goes to show that, like, people are, and not to say that they don't care about their parents and what they think or anything like that. It has nothing to do with that. I think in a way, they're not really trying to be selfish, but at the same time, they're just trying to do what's best for them.
Yeah. No, totally. And it's just, like we said, two different generations. What do you think the hardest part was for you when it came to like taking a seat back on planning?
Well, I'm a control freak. I'll admit it.
She admits
I am.
it. At least she admits
The
it.
first step.
Playing in softball. So it was really hard just to kind of let you run with it because, like I said earlier, I might not have agreed with what your vision was. And then sometimes some of your decisions or what you wanted kind of, because your mother's very sensitive and I always get my feelings hurt. So it was just kind of like thinking again, this isn't about me. Don't take it so personal. And let your daughter, it's her day. And if this is what she wants, fine, go ahead. Even though I might complain later about it, to other individuals. But I think that was just letting go of control. That's probably the hardest thing I had to do. Plus, I think it comes into play when you have, your parents that are paying for things.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
And so then you're kind of like, well, wait a minute, this is what you want, but I'm footing the bill on this. Even when we went wedding dress shopping, for example, I might not have loved everything you tried on, but the dress you did choose, loved. But some of the styles and stuff was like, no, that's just not what I would choose. And I am paying for the dress, so you're going to get what I want. So it's just a matter of reeling it in and just like, keep your mouth shut. Don't say anything. I can go home and, complain to your stepdad, all I wanted. Like, oh my God, this is what she wants. There's no way. But I think that's just what comes to play, is just letting it go. Pick your battles. That is the famous saying.
Unfortunately, when people pay for things, that's the mindset that they have. They think they have a choice, they have decisions to make, and I knew that if when that comes, that if we wouldn't have those decisions to make, we would have to let it go. It's our choice to pay for it. But that doesn't give us any power, unfortunately. And that's
Unfortunately.
But that's what happens. I mean, money is kind of like power.
Right.
We have the money, we want the power. We want to make those decisions, and it doesn't necessarily come with that role. So,
I mean, do you think that when parents, just in general, are paying for any part of the wedding, do you feel like there's like that pressure to impress your family and friends? Is that like, does that come from a place of just like being like, this is my child and look what I'm doing for them? Like, do you think that there's like that sense of it?
No, I think that, well, it might for some, I guess. And the same thing, there are people that always want to do, I'm going to updo this person, or I want to updo my sister, or I want to, I want it better than this, and I want it better than, I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah.
It probably is.
Yeah.
I know for some dads it is too, but
yeah, no, it's like a power play thing sometimes. Unfortunately, I think when money comes into play, it becomes a whole next level thing. The way that I view it is if, you have a parent who's kind enough to help you pay for something, they should really think of it as like, this is my gift to you.
It is.
You do what you want with the gift, but just know that it came from me. Whatever it is that you want. It's like giving them a gift card to go to like whatever store, and like you being like, well, I'm giving this gift card. You have free reign technically, but I want you to buy this one specific thing. And where it sort of maybe becomes unfair for some people.
Yeah, I think it gets more challenging because when you hand over, oftentimes in weddings, a large amount of money, you want to know where that money is going and what it's being spent on. So I think that can kind of cloudy some things and some decisions, because they do want to know, okay, I just gave you all this money and what are you doing with it?
You're buying donuts.
Yeah, I did buy donuts, and I do not regret it. I would buy those donuts again.
Well, plus it gets a little challenging when you have, different sets of parents. You've got your step parents, stepmom, stepdad. Plus, it was also kind of a challenge having your dad and stepmom up in Canada. So we had a different country involved, and sometimes they have their own traditions as well, and that maybe they wanted to see. Courtney made, her vision was to have an outdoor wedding, so that was up at the national park. So trying to coordinate all of that and what she envisioned maybe for the decorations and the type of flowers that she wanted, and then running it by her dad, and then getting him on board with a lot of the non-traditions, I guess I would call it. And, kind of circling back in regards to traditions, I think people getting married now is, we've all been to hundreds of weddings. And so they just want to come up with something different that's more memorable, I think. Mm-hmm. So maybe that's why getting away from the traditions necessarily, because again, we've all done the chicken dance or whatever. In our day in the 80s when we got married, that's what everybody did, was the chicken dance. Or the cake cutting or something along those lines. But yeah, they just want something that you're going to remember and go, oh my goodness, I went to so-and-so's wedding last weekend and this is what they did. I've never seen that before. But as a parent, I'm like, well, no, I don't think you want to change it that way.
That's not how we do it.
That's not what you do. So, it just kind of comes into play. It's just getting so many people involved. And when you have different family units, so.
Yeah.
So what, Susan and whoever, Holly, what do you guys think is the most appropriate role for moms when it comes to weddings?
I think if we just want to be asked. Maybe we wouldn't have so much to say if you would just ask us, And like Holly said, we may not approve. And some moms are super, super controlling that they want the final say. And it's very stressful doing a wedding anyway, but then trying to please everybody. And I think that was the one thing that my mother said to me was that because I was trying to do the seating and getting everybody's input of who should sit where and make sure everybody was happy. And I couldn't make it work for everybody. And my mother said, make sure you're happy and don't worry about everybody else because you can't make everybody happy. So just worry about you. And that was kind of what I went with for the whole wedding. So, and my mom was far away. She was in Florida. I got married in New York. So I didn't have that controlling mother, or I would call her and ask her questions or her opinion, but because she couldn't visualize where I was getting married and all of that, then she couldn't give a lot of information or input. So, but I think that I wish a lot of parents would just say that. Just make sure you're happy because you're not going to make everybody else happy.
Yeah, maybe it's more of just being that support system, not trying to be the coach, just being the person, the spectator, and you're paying your ticket, but at the same time, you're there to make sure they're enjoying themselves. You want to have a good time. Obviously, no one wants to go to a wedding and not enjoy themselves. Right. So, yeah. Well,
and I paid for my own wedding too, but I still wanted her input. I wanted to make her part of it, so I might have been a little different because we were paying for our own wedding, but I did want to make her part of it. So it was a little bit different for me.
And it's interesting, especially for back in the 80s.
Because my mom's super controlling. And it was probably best that we were 1,200 miles apart. Yeah, that was a little bit different, but.
Fair.
Yeah.
Fair. What about you, Holly? What do you think?
I 100% agree with Susan. It's just having your mom feel like she's included. Yeah. You can ask her opinion or, what maybe she thinks about something. You don't have to go along with it, of course, but just, make her feel like she's part of it. I mean, especially the mother of the bride, this is her daughter. And like Susan said, you want, everyone happy. And at the end of the day, yes, the bride, she's the one who you should keep happy. But just include, if it's your mom or even your stepmom or whoever it may be, just so they feel like they're part of it. They have a little input from time to time. And so it's more of a collaborative effort. I think that just goes, a long way.
Long way. Absolutely.
I know that Alicia and I have both dealt with moms at weddings who insert themselves on the wedding day in the sense that they almost hover over our shoulders telling us, make sure you get pictures of this, or did you get that, or are you going to do this, or whatever it might be. And it not necessarily is just Alicia and I. We have, friends who might be florists or hair and makeup, and moms are right over their shoulders putting their input in. What do you guys think of that? Do you think that's an appropriate thing to do? Do you think that's too over the top?
I think it comes down to where not involving the mom at the beginning in terms of maybe sitting down, the bride necessarily sitting down with her mom and saying, this is what we're already planning on doing, the type of pictures, mom at the time before the wedding. Is there any specific pictures you might think that you would like, different family pictures or something, for example, or flowers or something? If you have all of that kind of pre-talked about and pre-planned before, then I don't see the mom hovering, because if she wasn't involved from the beginning, then of course she's going to be like, did you do this picture? Did you do that picture? Or these flowers or something? But yeah, it just stems from bottom line involvement at the beginning.
So more communication.
Yes.
Communication is always key for any relationship, whether it be your spouse, your parent, your friend, your vendor, all of that. I think that's very wise words, Holly. And it's very interesting to say, because it does get my wheels turning in sense of so from my perspective as a vendor, my clients is the couple. Even if the parent is paying, the clients are still my couple. It doesn't matter who pays for it. The photos are going to be for the couple. So therefore, those are my clients. Not to say that obviously I don't have any form of communication with them ahead of time, but a lot of times it is encouraged that couples do sit down and talk to their parents, whoever wants to be the most involved with whatever, and, set up some boundaries, whatever they feel most comfortable with. But I will say from a vendor's perspective, there should be a little bit more of a boundary maybe from what we've seen there. And it's not every time, like Courtney says, it does happen. And I think that boundaries maybe just need to be set up a little bit more for the parents, not just moms. Maybe like you said, like the dad might be trying to say something, or an aunt or an uncle or a grandparent saying something, and just letting them know, hey, listen, I am in communication with my vendor way ahead of time. We go over all of this information. And yes, of course, I think in asking your parents, if they want a specific type of family photos or something like that, I think that's really important to ask ahead of time. So on the day of, we're not getting yelled at by a family member. Why didn't you take this photo? Or
how do you handle that though? How do you guys deal with that on a professional level when the mom is overbearing? Because you're always going to have a mom. It could be 10 a year, 1 a year, you're always going to have them. They exist. So how do you guys handle that? Are you like, I'm handling this?
That's how I feel on the inside.
Right. Yes. There's
on
a lot
the
of
inside.
feelings that happen on the inside.
Right.
But professionally speaking, I'm sure Courtney probably would agree. If anything, I'll mention what I would say and she could mention hers. But I would basically just be like, I completely understand. I know it's important to you. I want to make sure I also have a list to follow. This is where that communication and planning comes into play, especially as a photographer. We always ask for a family list or something, or specific photos that they want throughout the day. That's all of the information we go over ahead of time. So when we are bombarded with someone, whether it be a mom or someone who's just oh, we want this, we want that. Okay, great. Wonderful. We'll make sure we get through this list, and I'll double check with the couple to make sure it's something that they want. We'll make sure we have time for it. If we don't have time for it during this set time, because we literally set up a timeline based off of all of the information we already have. If there's enough time, then, we'll make it happen now. If not, we'll make sure to come and find you during the reception and take care of it then. Generally speaking, I feel like that's what I would say. Probably Courtney would most likely do the same. Or
yeah, I 100% am the same. I usually tell them I have my list that I've gone over with the bride and groom or whoever it might be ahead of time, whatever my couple is. And I just let them know that this list is to keep me organized so that I don't miss what the bride and groom wanted ahead of time. Everything after that, if I go rogue, it's a pretty much 90% positive that I'm going to forget something that was important to the couple. So I usually just tell them, I need to make sure that I get what was most important to them first. And then if time allows, we can circle back to what you were wanting or whatever it might be. On the inside, I might be saying some extreme cuss words. And I do feel like a lot of the time it'll be something so small, I don't know, a cute little decoration or something on a table that mom was really proud of or just wanted to make sure you got a picture of. And usually you've already taken a picture of that, right? Because you knock those details out right away. And so in those moments, it does give me immense pleasure to be like, oh, don't worry, I already got that.
And then,
It's like this really sick power that I feel.
Yeah. How many chances does a mom get?
and now Susan's just all the questions, by the way.
I want to make sure I want to make sure the viewers understand that, when does it come super frustrating for y'all? Like, do moms just go away? Do they take that information? I'm sure they don't back up and go, oh, let me let you do your job. Like, there's moms that will still stand by and go, oh yeah, but
Yeah,
they're just not going to back down.
I usually just, tolerate it all night. I'm kind of
whoa.
a pushover in a sense. I never have quite figured out the right way to politely say to mom, like, hey, I got this. Can you let me do my job?
Right.
Just like you said.
I know, but I just don't want to make anything like awkward the rest of the night. So I usually just like let it keep coming throughout the evening. And then I'll just keep saying less and less words as time goes on. I'll just start saying like, okay, yep, sure, got it. Or like whatever it is and walk away.
Right.
Yeah.
Just
I
to
mean, not
keep
to
the
say that
peace.
it's anyone else's job to like step in. But if it does become an issue where, someone is kind of interrupting a lot or something like that, if there happens to be a planner, have a conversation with the planner on the side, like, hey, listen, I'm trying to do this. And get these photos done. Unfortunately, the bride's mom is like hounding me a bit. And she's just kind of basically preventing me from being able to do my job in the best way possible.
Right.
And it's something that I would probably say as well to her, or, like I said, anybody, but since we're talking about moms, it's mom's episodes, we'll say mom. If the mother is just continuously saying things to me, I'd be like, listen, this is your child's wedding day. However, with that said, you should also be able to enjoy yourself. You're not here to do a job. You're here to enjoy yourself, like to have a good time, make memories with your families, your new family and friends. Like, please just, that's what I want you to be concerned with right now. Like, don't worry, I got this. Like, we've got everything situated, planned out. Like, I don't want you to fret. And then if, like I said, if it does become more of an issue, just like having a moment set aside to like talk to the planner, like, hey, listen, I can't really get my job done right now. Can you please also step in and mention something? And like I said, I don't really want to put that on the planner. It's just one of those things where I feel like if there is another vendor who comes up to them, it's like, hey, let's have you come inside and enjoy, especially if it is the planner. I feel like that's usually more of like, they would be a little bit more understanding instead of it just being like the DJ or,
Right.
who's already probably just trying to get their job done and set up and do all that.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. We did have a past bride who wrote into us to tell us her mom's story, and I would love your guys' opinion on this. She, on her wedding day, her mom hated how her hair and makeup came out after the stylist had finished. So when the stylist had left, she proceeded to take a shower and redo her hair and makeup, which obviously made everybody late through the timeline because they had to wait for mom to get ready. And then additionally, that same mom yelled at the maid of honor for showing too much cleavage, and then mom proceeded to cry about the cleavage situation. Oh. How do you think? Yes, the mom.
Really?
Yes, she was offended by the amount of cleavage that was showing, and I'm assuming it's probably an accumulation of the hair and makeup situation with the cleavage. But what are your thoughts on that?
I'm a little speechless.
Do you think it's appropriate for mom to have said anything to the maid of honor?
I do not think it would be appropriate at all. I mean, this is the maid of honor your daughter chose. This is her friend. This is, whatever dress that they were chosen, to wear. That as a mother, I would have kept my mouth shut. I wouldn't have said anything because that's embarrassing, and I don't want to embarrass my daughter on her wedding day.
Well, I appreciate that.
And be that person.
Did the bride pick out those dresses for them to wear? I mean, if anything, go to your daughter and say, so-and-so's, but no, they don't really have a right to do that. I don't think they do. So.
Yeah, I agree. I think mom, if mom was that upset, she should have definitely gone to the bride instead of directly to the maid of honor. But I just wanted your take.
No, I agree 100%. I was devastated when you told me that, Courtney, that this bride had to unfortunately go through that situation. We feel for you wherever you are. Our moms feel for you. We're really sorry you had to go through that. With that said, though, one of the big things that I try to keep in mind as a vendor is I really, really try not to bother the couple with any issues during their day. As much as I can. I'm lucky enough to say that I haven't really ever had to have someone break up something like that was like the couple, like it was someone else, another family member, another vendor, or whatever the situation may be. I always try to avoid going to the couple directly about something. But considering the situation in this where, if the mom did want to say something, it would be the most appropriate to say something to her instead of the friend directly. I mean, listen, if I'm taking photos and someone's nipple pops out, I'm going to say something like, listen, girl, you need to get those situated. Right. Let's get you some double-sided tape. Let's get the ladies in and continue. But I'll say something.
Someone's paying for those pictures and you need to do that.
I mean, I've had to edit like the top of a nipple every once in a while. Like it happens, especially like dresses. Sometimes like when you're moving around in them all day, you don't expect them to move and adjust right. So it's just one of those things where sometimes that kind of stuff happens. And the fact that like a mom pointed it out and was like really upset about it is like extra.
It's intense, yeah. And the fact that she hated her hair and makeup so much that she showered.
I know. That is just, to me, like I said, that's just shocking.
Yeah.
That
I mean, I understand wanting to feel your best, right? Especially on a day when you're going to have a lot of pictures taken. But like there was no way you could have doctored up what they did to make it that you liked it.
I mean, would she look like a clown?
I don't know, maybe. It comes to trusting your vendors, really.
Yes. Having that conversation before that day arrives, practicing maybe or something.
Or even before you sit in that chair, just letting them know, like, I am someone that wears more neutral colors or more, I wear a ton of makeup or I don't know, whatever it is, just.
Didn't want big Dolly Parton hair or something.
I don't know. I would.
But yeah, wow. That's
how was the
surprise on that one.
Sorry?
How was the bride? How was she like flipping out? Was she?
Yeah, she said that she was quite upset and that she was very embarrassed and didn't know how to handle the situation. But she said that now her and that same friend laugh about it. But in the time, they were very upset.
That's selfish. I mean, that to put your daughter in that situation and make her feel like, they had to wait on you as the mom.
Mm-hmm.
Because again, the mom made it about herself and that it was her special day, not her daughter's special day.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I think that's ultimately one of the things, like the main points that we were really trying to come across is that unfortunately it almost feels like sometimes, don't be offended moms, that some moms do make it about themselves.
Right.
And try to make it like their second wedding day or something, like they're trying to make up for the one that they never had or, whatever that looks like for them. Like they just want to try to make it about them when it really should be about their child. And it's just very interesting, like, because, Courtney and I were saying from a vendor's perspective, it's very different. We don't try to insert ourselves in any situations that are uncomfortable for anybody. Like there's dynamics that are going on all over the place. Like literally one of my questions in my questionnaire that I send to my couples is, are there any uncomfortable situations that I should be aware of with family members? Like we always want to be aware, if we need to keep two people apart just to keep everything cordial, like we will do whatever we can. So it is just very interesting that there's people out there, unfortunately, who try to make it more difficult for everybody.
Yeah, totally. No, I would say that seems to be the main thing is that a lot of moms act as if it was their wedding a second time, which I can kind of understand having a single wedding myself. I now see on Pinterest and all these other places things that I love and would love to have if I could go back and do my wedding again.
You want to redo.
So it's like as new things come out and new trends, like I want that. I want to enjoy that. So I understand where moms are coming from in that aspect. But the way that it often comes across can be a lot for a bride and groom to handle.
Yeah.
Right. Well, there's always the vow renewal. You can always do a vow renewal and do some sort of little mini something and incorporate some of those really cool little things.
And don't ask your mom to pay for it.
Yeah. Susan season is out. You didn't invite her to your first wedding, so now she's not paying for the vow renewal. So
That's fine. That's okay. I'm all right with that. I never had any plans to let anyone pay for anything anyways, but that's just me. That's me. Yeah, no. And I think, because I know we had like questions that we were going through, and you know, with this podcast, we're always just randomly coming up with like topics and random things to say and ask about. But do you, as a mother, do you think it's appropriate to be someone like to reach out to a vendor on your own, on behalf of your child, to ask questions? Do you think that's appropriate? And if so, or if not, I'd love for your explanation and why you think.
Did the bride ask her to do it?
No, this is literally something that they would probably do on their own. So, for example, unfortunately, Courtney's had dealt with this a little bit more than I have more recently, where mothers of whoever, bride or groom, whoever the couple is, will reach out and ask about photos and when they're going to be done. And they know they're coming from a place of love, like they can't wait to see them, but they are reaching out directly to a photographer, not CCing their child, it's not being brought in naturally. It's just straight, like direct messaging a vendor asking. Side note, if there's ever like you're planning something and you want to do like a little surprise for your like child, that's one thing.
Right.
Post-wedding, especially reaching out to a vendor, do you think it's appropriate?
I think there's a lack of respect there if you're doing that. Then whether you're paying for it or not, it is not your wedding, and that would be disrespectful to me, I think.
That's fair. We want you to be honest and open.
No, I think it would just be, again, it puts the bride in an awkward place. Especially if she didn't know you were doing it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we don't know whether or not they had a conversation ahead of time, but we're assuming that they didn't.
I just think that's disrespectful. And again,
I think it's
all about respect.
completely inappropriate as well. I mean, just to kind of go behind the bride's back, because again, it comes down to that being a control freak or whatever, and just having these questions. Talk to your daughter, and to say, I'm curious when we're going to get the pictures. Do you mind if I reach out to whomever it may be? And at that point, if the bride's like, no, just leave it alone, we'll get it, and then you just back off. But yeah, I completely agree. It's so disrespectful to any of the vendors or whoever you're reaching out to. Just let it go. The wedding is over. Let your, daughter and new husband handle everything. I just think it's a slap in the face.
Yeah. So do you think that if a mom and a daughter had a conversation ahead of time, and let's say that daughter was like, wondering on something but didn't want to reach out to the vendor and asked you to do it, then should she have CC'd the daughter, included everyone in the email, or do you still think at that point it would be appropriate?
As a mom, I think we would do it. I mean, I would want to do it for my daughter if she was uncomfortable about it and not wanting to feel like she may be putting pressure on it and ask me to do it to be the bad guy. I would do it if she asked me to do it, but I'd also let the photographer know in some way, maybe not the total truth, but hey, my daughter has something coming up and was looking to maybe use the photos or come up with some kind of reason, and just like throw her under the bus. Hey, my daughter wanted me to call you and ask you, when the photos are going to be ready. But I think that, I would do it if my daughter asked me to do it on a professional level.
Yep. No, I agree.
Agreed.
I feel like I get so many of these emails, and Alicia has been so great about guiding me through life, as I've said many times before, but she often puts in her contract, like, just ahead of time to let everyone involved know, hey, I'm going to be in contact directly with my couple, whether that's the bride and the groom, the bride and the bride, the groom and the groom. I'm not going to go out of my way to send this email to mom or send this gallery to your grandma or whoever it is. Like, I'm going to send whatever my communication is with my couple, and then it's up to them to take it from there. So she has been very helpful for me on that, because I do get text messages even from moms reaching out to me like, hey, just wondering an update on photos, or just wondering if you had a moment to look at this and decide on like a location for engagement photos or whatever it might be. And now I have started texting back, letting them know, like, yep, I've been in contact with your daughter or your son, and like we have got it figured out. Whereas before I might not have said stuff like that.
What about saying, why don't you reach out to your daughter or son instead of saying you've already done that? Tell them to
Push it off on them.
Women who ask how we keep it professional.
Yeah.
I spoke to your daughter. You might want to reach out to her and ask her that question in a nice way. You don't have to be mean about it,
Yeah.
but that was my question. Do you guys, not that I'm supposed to ask questions, but
No,
do
feel
you
free.
guys reach out to the bride when parents are calling or texting or emailing? And, do you let the bride know that you are being contacted by a family member, and is it something that they can handle, or would they like to handle, or how would they handle, kind of thing, rather than, you trying to battle that family member?
Well, I think for me personally, it would be if it happened more than once. If it happens once and, like Courtney says, like responds back in just like a professional way, like, we've got it handled, talking to your daughter or your son about this, like we'll make sure it gets covered. This is whatever the question is, you answer that kind of in a general way, just but mentioning that you're talking to their child directly. Now, if it happens again, then that's when I would reach out to them and be like, hey, listen, like I know, your mom's coming from a good place, but I do think it's really important that, you have this communication with them directly instead of through me. I do like, because we handle, it's not, I think people I don't think they actually forget, but maybe they forget that they don't know that, well, no, they do know, but they forget that we're dealing with more than just 2 people in a year. We have multiple clients, a lot of stuff going on, especially nowadays with the wedding scene just being so crazy lately, that we have so many clients to take care of, so many questions to answer. And it's just anything extra almost feels like making a bubble burst.
Right.
So for me, if it was more than once, then I would absolutely reach out to the couple and mention, listen, there's some boundaries that need to be set up.
Speaking of boundaries, what do you guys think is the best way to start with setting up boundaries, or just tips that you would have for daughters to approach their moms while at the beginning of a wedding planning process?
And in terms of like, you want them to make sure that they understand, they understand the boundaries in the sense like we were just saying, maybe not reaching out to the vendor directly, like the planning process, what that's going to look like with each vendor, and like how to go about being a part of the process without being too intrusive, like setting those boundaries up.
I think Holly mentioned it.
I mean,
earlier.
a lot has to do with obviously your relationship that the mother and daughter have. I'm sure there's a lot of daughters out there that aren't comfortable with telling their moms and setting some type of boundary.
So if they're not comfortable, how would you recommend they handle that?
Because it is important
to have that
like a handwritten letter.
Maybe you can mail it and then just
or send
send an email and then hit send and run.
Yeah.
But it's just, you got to set up that communication and
have the tough conversations.
Just say, mom and dad, involve dad. We're starting the pre-planning stages of the wedding. These are our thoughts that, we're having on some stuff. What's your opinion on it? But I want you to know, that as a reminder, this is our wedding.
I will have final say.
And I will have final say, yes. But you do have to have those tough conversations, or else sometimes moms just go off the deep end and they'll just kind of run rampant. And then the daughter becomes, she's afraid to say something to mom. Don't want to hurt her feelings. But you got to have those tough conversations, no matter how rough it could get. And there might be some screaming involved and some tears. But you'd save yourself a lot of heartache if you start at the beginning. Because here you have this mom who took a shower because she hated her hair and makeup and postponed your wedding because you didn't have those tough conversations at the beginning.
Yeah.
Very true.
And if you just try including them in the simplest way, or maybe ask them, hey, can you just jot down a couple of things that may be more important or important to you, or that I hadn't thought of, but in a nice way, just jot it down and we'll see what we can do about fitting it in. Or again, Holly's right. It depends on that relationship between the mother and the bride and how far you can push that. I mean, some some brides are like, Mom, just shut up, okay? This is not your wedding. And then there's me who wouldn't want to hurt anybody's feelings, but, hear them out and walk away and go, yeah, I'm not doing that. Again, it's just, you just include them a little bit. Communication, or if they were to ask you, my mom wants these pictures, what do you think? Or, well, again, we can just ask your mom to write things down or make some suggestions. We'll do our best to make it work and see what happens.
That's definitely a good way to do it. I never really thought about suggesting ahead of time. And I feel like maybe this is more of like a planner. Like this is something that they do. And I mean, Courtney and I aren't really involved in that process. Planners are a totally different vendor.
Right.
They have other things going on. Like maybe if there is a planner listening, maybe this is something that maybe could be implemented. That would be very helpful for couples at the end of the day. Like, if you have a parent who really wants to be involved and you're not trying to totally let them, but you just want them to feel included, and you're not trying to hurt anyone's feelings, like obviously, like maybe that's a good suggestion to have, is like have them write down what's most important to them about the day and see if we can implement anything that you also want, because this is your day. So, just making sure it sticks to that. But that's actually, yeah, it's a very good point.
Y'all moms just love way too much.
True.
So much love coming out.
Especially weddings are stressful, beyond stressful, for just so many reasons.
Yeah.
And it's just communication, just trying to get everybody on the same page. And then, as I said earlier, if you have a lot of different family members or different sets of parents involved, it gets complicated.
It's hard to include all those people.
It is. So your mom should always be number one.
Okay, all right. I'll remember that later.
Yeah, you definitely remember that later.
Perfect. Well, Susan, did you have any more questions for us? Because I feel like I need to make sure.
Not at the moment.
Yeah. Susan will write us later if she does.
Send you an email.
Write a strongly worded letter. She's done that many times before. So.
Oh, okay.
Don't do anything you might have.
Oh my gosh. Well, that is all the questions we had.
Yeah. I think we actually did touch on a good amount of stuff, though. I think, like we were saying, it's trying to navigate through a tough topic that I think that sometimes people have a hard time talking about. And like we were saying, vendors do have these conversations with each other about these things. And unfortunately, a lot of times it's not the most positive, in the sense of like, this mother was so wonderful and this and that. A lot of times the stories that are told, it's negative. Yeah, It is negative. Unfortunately, being people, mothers trying to micromanage throughout the wedding day for all of the vendors. And I don't know, there's just a lot of stories that we've heard from multiple different people about multiple different moms doing multiple different things that they shouldn't have been doing. So there's never any reason for a mom to not enjoy herself. Like, really, the day is about the couple, but it's also about the families coming together and enjoying themselves and having a good time. And I feel like if you're just trying to manage everything and keep an eye out on every single detail, the day's going to go by and you're going to be like, where was I the whole time? I was in the closet trying to grab these things, or behind the photographer trying to tell them what to do the whole time, or telling the DJ to play this song, even though there's a list, like all the things. And so I think that this was a really great topic to touch on. And who's to say, maybe we'll talk about this again and talk about how things are in an upswing and it's becoming more positive.
Again, it's a control issue. For the most part, it's a control issue.
Just needs to let it go.
Yeah,
let it go.
And there's just you're never going to change that in people. So
it's about managing.
It is. And that's what you probably need to learn.
Yeah.
More so than anything, is to manage them.
We need to take a vendor's course on how to manage.
I'm sorry?
So we need to take a vendor's course on how to manage family members.
I would probably benefit from that.
I think like we were saying, it definitely comes down to communication. It's about communicating as a vendor to your client about the boundaries, the things that they should do to make it a successful day for everybody. And if that means having those tough conversations with your parents about things and making sure they know where their stance is at, like, because like you said, not every mother is going to be like you guys, where you're so kind and understanding, and some people just want to take the reign on everything. Although sometimes I do know there's some brides out there who don't really want to plan a wedding. So they're literally just giving all the stuff, all the
Right.
things away to all
That's
the people
so
that they
hard
can.
for
And that doesn't necessarily help us out either.
But you have a list that I'm impressed that you told me about. You have a list that you put together. Is that in there that
What list are you referring to?
well, I guess Cordy was saying the same thing. You have like you guys have a list of what you're doing, how you're doing
Oh,
it.
timeline?
Right, that type
For
of
the
thing.
day?
And, right. But you said something about you had a list for your bride prior.
Like questionnaire.
Right.
Okay, yeah.
Can you put something in that would make them aware of the communication that they need to have with their family members, that your communication is with them directly and only them, only because it's a timing kind of thing. We got to stay on track time wise. Like I can't be dealing with different family members or
definitely.
in a nice way.
Yeah.
We're talking about the mothers, but
right. Well, I'm thinking of two things. One thing with that questionnaire thing is we can always implement like an extra little like side note thing to it, being like family shot list. That's for the most part really the only shot list that a photographer will ask for. Depending on each photographer is different, but generally speaking, the family photo list is really like the only list of photos that we ask for, because we don't know who your family is unless we're like a part of the family. We literally have no idea who any of these people are. So we'll have no idea. So we always ask for that. I do have like some extra little like ticks and like tabs that are like this, like a note, like putting groupings like this and doing that. So it could always definitely be added. Like, listen, if there's anything that you want, like one of your parents really wants with like whatever side of the family, like definitely. But I also do ask if there is a complication in the family. I do always make sure to ask that. And that kind of gives you an idea. Normally, I have a conversation with my couples a couple weeks ahead of time over the phone. So this is the stuff that's kind of brought up too, because there is a lot of communication that goes on, not just within the questionnaire before and after, but like all happens before the wedding. Although also we were saying in a contract form can be listed out as a clause that communication is only going to happen between the vendor and the client. And that's it. Obviously once that contract is signed, it's binding. So you can always just be like, RE, contract, like refer back to, and this is, if it comes down to it, it's literally in black and white right there, legally.
Yep. Well, no, I think as well, I mean, you two, you have the experience because you've done numerous weddings. The bride and groom, hopefully this is their only wedding that they're having. So everything's a learn, you never know. That is all a learning experience. So these might be things that they're not thinking of, that their mom is going to freak out at the last minute, like this other woman who took a shower, So maybe when you guys are initially talking to them, not that you're the wedding, consultant or the day of coordinator, but because you guys do have
the knowledge
and the experience, bring it up and just say, from past wedding experiences, there are from time to time, share an example and say, and to make your day as special and as easygoing and stress-free as possible, this could come up. So maybe have the conversation with a parent, your mom or a dad, because I'm sure dads get involved, as well, and just kind of bring it up, instead of doing like a training, like you said, of how to deal with these situations. If you nip them in the bud and then have the bride start thinking, oh yeah, you're right, maybe I better include my mom or bring this up to her, or just to say, this is how we're going to handle it, just to, like I said, nip it early or something, if you bring it up, just as a suggestion, because you guys do have the experience, or any other vendors, bring that up as well with them, and just have that conversation, and then maybe save some heartache in the long run.
That's definitely something for Alicia and I to consider.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely, it's one of those things where could, like I said, could be like a side note thing, like whether it be on the phone call or something, an initial point of contact, if you want to sit down and have a conversation with, if your parents are going to be involved in the planning process, especially in the part that affects us the most with our specific job that we're doing as a vendor, like if there's anything that they are wanting and everything, just making sure having to have those conversations ahead of time, because the day of the wedding itself should really be a dedication to the couple and them enjoying themselves and not having to stress about what mom is doing on the side, like behind my shoulder, mouth breathing on me. Like, I don't, no one needs that. No one needs to see that. Like, I can't imagine that looks even comfortable outside of just like being the vendor feeling uncomfortable. I'm sure if you're like a guest and you happen to see like, just like the mom, like creeping behind, like trying to whisper things into the, that would make me feel uncomfortable if I were a guest at a wedding, because I wouldn't be hired. I probably would go up to them and be like, Susan, go inside.
Yeah.
Go inside, Susan.
Yes, you would.
Don't be doing this right now.
Well,
You're being crazy.
What about a phone call called controlling relatives? This is the phone call you make a week or two before and say, okay, so we need to discuss any controlling relatives you may have, like, I like your mom joke. Is your mom controlling, or does she need to have a lot to say, or just make like a light joke about it and just like, so that it maybe won't happen. Is there something that you guys could do, like something like that, not just for that phone call, but maybe, like you said, you make a phone call,
right?
Go over some things and then say, okay, well, let's talk about the controlling folks in your family.
No, that's definitely a fair question. I think that's a really good point to bring up. And it's probably maybe something that we can just do moving forward to help create the solution before it becomes a problem.
Right.
Yep.
Well, and then Alicia, you had mentioned earlier how if you have a mother breathing down your neck about certain things in different photos, having that mindset, I want you to enjoy yourself. So if you approach, the bride early on and use that terminology by saying, I want your mom or stepmom or whomever to, have the best experience at your wedding, to really enjoy themselves and not worry about the details. So again, if she's controlling and, let's just kind of nip it now and get it out of the way, have that conversation.
That's fair. I know Courtney's just like, I'm soaking everything in right now.
I know. I'm like, I didn't expect to actually like learn anything this episode.
But hey, we
no
are your
offense to moms. I just meant like, I just wanted like a perspective, right? Other than what Alicia and I have. And so I do like the idea of ahead of the time talking with the clients and just like, hey, this is an uncomfortable conversation. We're about to have it. Who do I need to worry about? And like, if you do have a more controlling mom or whatever it might be, what's most comfortable for you, for me to approach them so that like everyone is on the same table ahead of time, knowing like, okay, if mom's breathing down my neck, I have given you permission to say this to her or whatever it is. I love it.
Absolutely.
I think it's a good idea.
Yeah, I think everyone's vendor-client relationship looks different from point, for everybody, depending on how you have these conversations with people. I try to be, my clients know I'm a very open person. And so there's, at the very beginning, it's the most professional we'll ever be. Towards the end, it's still professional, but we definitely like get to know each other so much, because obviously in order to photograph a couple and like who they are together, a lot of time you really need to know, right? You do have to make it personal. So, getting on that next level wouldn't necessarily be too difficult. Like I said, coming from my perspective and how I like to work, maybe for some people it might be a little bit of an extra step for them to take, but it's something I can just like slide right in there. And I would feel really comfortable with talking about, especially if it makes my job a lot easier.
Yep.
Well, I mean, you're setting boundaries. It's a two-way street. You have your
yeah,
client has to
absolutely.
set their boundaries, but you as the vendor, you have your boundaries to set. They sign a contract and a lot of things are spelled out in that contract. But if you can have a verbal conversation with them about certain things, then I think it just makes everybody's, day more enjoyable and less stressful for everyone involved. That's all I would,
absolutely. And just like you said, wording it in a way that is everyone really, as a guest, no matter who they are, really should just be enjoying themselves and not having to worry about acting like a vendor or doing anything in particular that is outside of the realm of what they really should be doing that day. Because at the end of the day, like I said, it's going to roll right by.
Right.
It's going to come by so quickly, really, and you're going to be like, well, what the hell even just happened? Where was I this whole time? Like, I wasn't even with my family. Like, I was hovering around the planner all night trying to make sure that the leaves look like, they look a certain way on the table.
They looked wispy enough.
That's why everyone needs a do-over.
But mine is not your do-over.
As long as we're making that clear. Communication.
Oh my God.
I think this has been so helpful. Well, ladies, thank you so much for being on the podcast with us today. You did so great.
Aww,
like,
we're
going to have to bring you back.
Okay.
As as guest speakers again, we would love to have you again if you would like to be on.
We'll let you know what
We'll
we'd like to
communicate
speak
about this.
about.
Yeah.
If you could just make a list of the things you'd like to talk about.
Susan will have a list of
I'll have
questions.
a list.
Yeah.
I'll have a
Yeah,
list.
you guys could
of
interview
whatever.
us.
Okay. I think that would be a great idea, because what we're trying to do here is get this information out to other photographers, and we want to hear what you have to say. Like, I'm dying to know what that tone sounds like when you're telling that mother.
Oh, she's probably saying this because if she knows me personally.
Tone is big, and then you've got mommy crying in the corner going, that photographer's so mean.
I hope not. If you're a
I hope
photographer,
not.
Rolled
Yeah.
her eyes at me.
I hope
Don't be
that
mean.
never happens.
Yeah, no, even if you're
So
a pain in the
tone
ass,
is-
there's no
right.
reason to be mean.
No.
I have my hospitality experience, but if you're in the service-based
Tone.
industry, you should always know what the right tone is.
Right. But sometimes that's hard.
Not to say that it's not hard. Don't believe me. There's
Yeah.
a lot of things that I've said to people in the past where I had a smile on my face, but I had a burning rage on the inside.
can't-
Like you would just never know. There's just never a time to be inappropriate with anybody. And to say it's just like 99% of the time, there's never a time to be inappropriate. Let's just say there's maybe
Right.
1% where things got pushed way too hard. But
No, I-
I don't think that's ever really happened too
No.
often.
In the face.
Yeah, I feel that often.
That
But
rage.
you guys have enough stress. You don't need more added.
I don't need hot stink breath in my ear.
I just got a visual. I'm like, wow.
Quiet.
No comment.
I'm not that mom, though.
Yeah. Thankfully. But yeah. So
Okay.
then we're gonna do, I guess we'll do show notes and people can refer back to this as well. I'm gonna say shout out to Courtney for everything with this podcast so far because she's been wonderful. I don't think this podcast would really exist without her. So
Oh my
we're all
God.
gonna be like, yay, Courtney.
Yeah. Yay! Oh, thank you. I do enjoy it. Thank you.
No,
I
it's
appreciate
Courtney.
that.
Yeah.
Well, if anyone has any other questions or stories about moms that you want us to ask Holly and Susan and get their take on, we would love that. If you guys just feel free to email us. You can direct message us on our Instagram at Weddings Unedited.
Not
Yep.
my direct messaging.
Yeah, don't go to my direct. I mean, you can, but I would prefer you send your messages if you want them to be seen at Weddings Unedited. And yeah, we would be more than happy to bring these lovely ladies back on for another episode. Or even if you want to have a dad's episode, we could do that too. You just let us know what you want, and we'll make it happen.
We're volunteering Michael over here. He says he's
Good
not
luck
even
with
around
that
to
one.
know what that's entailing.
He probably just looked at you like, what?
What?
Please don't do that.
Quiet. I'm not sure he'd
Oh,
have
we would
much
have fun
to
pulling it
say.
out of him. We would have fun, but that's like a lot of dads. I feel like a lot of dads, it's either 0% or 100. So
Yeah.
maybe we can pull that out of them.
Yep, exactly. Well,
Maybe.
until next time, guys, thank you for joining us. Thank you for listening, supporting, and subscribing to us. We appreciate all of you. And we will see you on the next one.
Yeah. Cheers.
Bye.
Enjoying this episode? Leave a review now.
Weddings Unedited.